Welcome, everybody, to episode 200, the big 200 of WordPress Weekly for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2015. I'm your host, Jeff Chandler, joined by Marcus Couch. Marcus, we've made it. I've made it. We both made it to the big 200.
Yes.
Welcome.
This is my third episode 200 in my 10-year career of podcasting, so I must be in good company.
Ouch, either that or you're getting old. Which one?
One of those, yes.
A little bit of both. So we have I've been looking forward to the show for weeks now. But before we get into it and I introduced our guests for tonight that's going to join me in this look back at WordPress Weekly. I want to say a few words. There's one guest in particular that I wish was on the show tonight because the show meant a lot to her, and that is the late Kim Parcell. When I started this show back in 2009, Kim would often join me on each episode to provide the countdown before I hit the record button on TalkShoe. And she took a lot of pride in being able to do that, and she was occasionally a guest on the show, as on episode 87, to talk about some of the news of the week. After the show, she would stick around with me, and maybe some guests would stick around for about a half hour to an hour. We'd talk about whatever was on her mind. In many ways, the show offered her an opportunity to connect and speak to WordPress people every week, because where she lived, there just wasn't a whole lot of people who knew about WordPress or understood what it was she did regarding open source and WordPress. So the show kind of gave her that outlet. That the show was sort of like the closest thing to a meetup she could regularly attend. So with that said, I thought it would be appropriate. I thought it would be really cool if we did a moment of silence in her memory. And so I just wanted to say I miss you, Kim. You were brought up a lot during the WordCamp Columbus, Ohio. I recently attended this past weekend. A lot of people, in fact, there's a keynote by Andrea Rennick that she did about what community means to her. And when Kim was mentioned during that presentation, Andrea broke down. I saw quite a few people in the audience with wiping their eyes. So you're Miss Kim. Always remember that. Always remember you. And hope you're looking down on us from up above. With that, Marcus, I wanted to sort of talk about a couple of interesting tidbits I gathered for the show before we get on with our guest here. And the first is the first show on, I used to use TalkShoe.com, and the guest here will remember that familiar recorded live, TalkShoe. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And the first episode of WordPress Weekly was 7 years ago on January 11, 2008. It's a long time ago. Just to give that a little perspective, WordPress 2.3.2 was released.
God.
Yeah,
we were still rocking Kubrick back then.
Yeah, most likely.
Kubrick was our responsive back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, blue with rounded corners. WordPress 2.5 took the place of 2.4, which was skipped due to it had something to do with security, or somebody was messing around with WordPress versions, or a bad update notice was going around, so they decided just to skip 2.4 and just launch right into 2.5. I hit episode 100 on June 5th, 2010, and then I took a 2-year break between episode 117, which was on October 28, 2011, and then I resumed the show on August 16, 2013, with the episode 118, Hey, Get Flywheel, which also happened to be like my last show on TalkShoe. That's when I discovered Google Hangouts and decided to do the show audio only from here because it was a lot easier for guests to connect with their computers, and it definitely had a lot better, higher audio quality. Because on TalkShoe, it was all based on a phone network. So it doesn't matter what you did or what equipment you used, everything sounded like it came through a tin can. So this has been quite the improvement in terms of audio, in terms of the history of the show. And Marcus, I wanted to throw this tidbit in here. You came in on episode 134. At least that's as far back as I can document as in terms of being my regular co-host. And that was back on January 18, 2014. So you've been with me for 66 episodes.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know if you know this, but back when you were in the TalkShoe days, back when I was just a listener, Right after you were done, there was always this show from somebody that was on the West Coast that was into aliens, and I would kind of prank that show. So I don't know if they're still around and doing the alien show, but anyway, I had fun.
I can, I'll just say in my youth, I had a little bit of fun on some talk show programs as
Yes.
well. I mean, it was, how couldn't you? So with that said, I thought it would be a great opportunity if I brought 3 people on, 2 of which were on that very first episode. The second, or the other gentleman I've known and I've been a fan of, and he's joined me for quite a few episodes as well. I'll start with Ronald Hirica. And Ronald, you joined me on that first episode. We talked about the news of the week, and you were, I think, a contributing member or founder of something called the Reader Appreciation Project, or Readers Appreciation Project. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Just a website designed to kind of put emphasis on the readers and how they help your blog grow, and so that was a fun project while it lasted.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I became a fan of you and your work and what you were doing, because you put readers first, and during that time frame, at least when I was participating in the whole Web 2.0 bubble and comments and WordPress sites, stuff like that, I didn't see too many people out there concentrating on their readers and trying to give them a great experience, but yet you had all these different posts and tips and tricks to really put your readers first, and I admired that.
Yeah, and also helped me kind of get into WordPress development, doing theme development, plugin development, stuff like that. So it's kind of like my big intro into the WordPress coding land. So
just sort of to go back, how did you get in touch with me, or how did you find out about me? I'm trying to figure out how did you end up on that first episode?
I think you just started commenting on the Reader Appreciation Project post, and I think I can't remember if it was maybe Google Talk or something, that we just started chatting back and forth, and you mentioned that you had a WordPress site, and you asked if we wanted to do a podcast, or help start a podcast, and it's like, yeah, I'll join you for your first show, and we'll see if it can take off or not. I think that's how it happened. It was a long time ago. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I remember commenting on the Readers Appreciation Project quite often, so I'm guessing you're probably right. So the next gentleman I want to introduce everybody to is Pata Dunbar, who also known as Pirate Dunbar. Arr. That's my best impersonation, I guess. Pata, man, great to hear from you, and sort of all the flashbacks right now, the good ones, are happening right now since I have all you guys on the show.
Ahoy, mateys.
There he is. So, Patan, I guess I should get this out of the gate because it's a great story. But you used to join me on the show, talk about WordPress, and there was that one night where it was during the after show, and I think you and I were watching episodes of South Park or something. It was crazy. And there just so happens to be a tornado going on in Atlanta, because you used to live in Atlanta at the time. And at some point, I told you, hey, man, did you know a tornado just went through Atlanta? And you were like, I remember you being shocked and surprised, like you didn't even know, I guess because your power didn't go out, and then you looked outside and noticed, yeah, man, there's something wrong. What can you recall from that night?
You know what? It was definitely a long day. I was still in the office, and it was just one of those moments where you're wearing those expensive Bose headphones. You don't hear anything. You're just kind of zoned out. And I was programming, and then I was anticipating the WP Weekly, and so I just stayed at work, and so I pretty much zoned out of the entire environment. And next thing you know, I hear my mom like kind of just bursting in the office and like just freaking out. I'm like, what's going on? And that's kind of when you also mentioned about the news about CNN posting like tornadoes happening in downtown Atlanta, and that's exactly where I was staying. So it was quite interesting.
I don't think I'll ever be able to do another episode again where somebody is on the show acting very calm while a tornado is outside their apartment ripping things up.
It's a pretty sturdy building. Yeah.
Oh man, that was a crazy moment. Well, I'll always remember that, just because that doesn't happen normally.
I think there was a moment. There was a moment last year, Jeff, where It didn't happen during the show, but it was like 5 seconds after you clicked off. We had an earthquake here.
Oh, really? Oh, there we go.
So we're full of natural disasters.
Oh,
Maybe
that's
it's
great.
Jeff.
It could be. It could be this show. It's earth shaking. The content on this show. And the last gentleman I want to bring on, who rounds out the trio, is Mr. Brad Williams. And me and Brad go way, way back. Way back to where you were doing strangework.com, which you're still doing. I remember you got involved with batteries.com. But Brad Williams, a lot has changed in those 7 years, my man.
Hello. Saving the ass for last, I see.
Well, if you want to put it that way.
A lot has changed, quite a bit. Fun to be back. That was before WebDev, actually.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the first episode. Pre-WebDev Studio, so that put some context around it.
So I'm trying to. How did you and I meet? I mean, how did you end up on the first episode of WordPress Weekly?
You know, I was actually calling into the Alien show, and somehow I ended up on the WordPress show, so
Hey!
it was fate, I guess. And next thing, I don't know. That's I honestly don't know. I think it was commenting, or somehow we met IRC. I'm not sure.
Either I or maybe I think maybe if you go back in your archive, you probably wrote a lot about WordPress on strangework.com, and maybe I was
I did.
following your site, and that's how we got engaged with each other.
I did. I think it was probably through the blog. There was some kind of way that you could meet other bloggers, not Technorati, but something else. It might have been through that.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about EFX2. Were you on that? Maybe it wasn't
I don't know.
EFX2, because EFX2 was like the WordPress.com before I discovered WordPress.com. It was like a blog network.
Something like that, yeah.
Was that in the days of the Ring? You guys remember the Ring? They used to put on your sites a website ring. They would go to the next one and the next one. There used to be a WordPress one a long time ago. If you had made your site with WordPress, you could get in the WordPress Ring.
Was that when WordPress was on GeoCities? No?
No.
Yeah.
No,
Around
I
that time.
remember there was a couple different projects out there where it was a service, and all these websites signed up to the service, and based on categories and everything else, if you put the widget on your blog, it would show relevant content from that website or from various websites, but it would be relevant content. I remember projects like that. Maybe that was it.
Well, Jeff, back during that time, I remember you were running jeffro2.0.com.
Oh, yeah.
How did you spell that again?
I don't even.
Jeffro2, the number 2, PT number 0.com. It was an awesome domain name.
It just rolls out of your mouth.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
What were you thinking?
At the time, I wasn't thinking except that, well, the whole idea behind the name was the whole Web 2.0 craze, and my name Jeffro, I figured, well, Jeffro 2.0, well, it didn't work. Well, actually, the website worked, but the domain, yeah, I could have done better.
You still have that domain? I haven't checked it in a while.
No, it's gone.
Uh,
It's gone. It's in the Wayback Machine. It's in the Wayback Machine. I check it periodically from time to time, and it's. I reviewed a lot of Web 2.0 services back then. The site was actually pretty successful back in the day, but ended up getting a WordPress bug, and the rest is history.
Now it's selling coaches and coach purses and Oakley sunglasses in Chinese.
A fitting end to that domain. So, Ronald, I wanted to bring you guys on. Of course, 7 years, but Ronald, since that time, since you and I, all of us, Bata, Brad, we were kind of WordPress newbies back in the day, just trying to get to grips with WordPress, but sort of between then and now, how has your life changed? How have you? What's your experience with WordPress like? Are you making a living because of it?
I could safely say yes. When I was first getting into WordPress, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do like product work, client work, stuff like that. And I've dabbled in both. And right now, I'm doing a lot of client work for an agency in Oklahoma City. So I've kind of gotten used to that and kind of have a senior role in my organization, kind of planning out everything. But there's, excuse me, still a lot of internal processes we have to work out. But as far as like developer, I think I'm pretty set. I guess I have I like to plan a lot when I program. So probably like 70% of the stuff I think about is planning or architecture or how to do this and how to do that. and then I just code like a minion for a while, and then start again. So that's basically been my journey in the WordPress land. Life, I don't know, that's kind of a tumultuous topic, but um, it brought me, to Europe for a while, and then now I'm back in the United States, and still not sure if I'm where I want to be, but right now I'm okay.
Yeah, for a little while there, weren't you in Norway?
Yeah, I was in Norway for about 2.5 years. I got to attend the first WordCamp Europe in the Netherlands, so that was pretty fun. So.
Yeah, you actually had an opportunity to work with and meet Ryan Hellier, who is also a longtime sort of, I don't know, fan or member or longtime visitor, contributor to WP Tavern. What's that guy like?
Ryan's very laid back and mellow. He's a very laid back and mellow guy.
Yeah, he seems that way.
Yeah, he's very, strongly opinionated, but he's also very, very down to earth. We actually roomed together for about a year before we split off and got our own places in Norway. For the most part, we're both introverts, so we kind of just stayed in our separate part of the apartment. But we had fun. It was a cool outing. So. And
Patav, what were you doing before you sort of got into WordPress? Your line of work. I mean, how did you get involved with WordPress?
That was actually during the early days, 2006, when I actually first got started in the web. I started working at Georgia State University, and just at that time, websites were still being built with tables. It's slowly transitioning to, CSS2 and the web standards, push. So at the time, I was building their kind of, department websites and was investigating better ways of building a static website and kind of tried out all the various system CMSs and Drupal, Joomla, and WordPress, and ended up choosing WordPress, and the rest is history.
No, for a while there, you joined me on WordPress Weekly, and you were a commenter and involved in the Tavern forums, and then you and I and Ronald got to meet at WordCamp Dallas, 2009, I think it was.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. WordCamp Frisco. Yeah, that's where we all met. Met Chris Jean, met Matt Mullenweg, met everybody. A lot of people from the WordPress community. It was a lot of fun. This was before any established company was in existence in the WordPress space.
Yeah, that was fun. I remember that. I remember that quite well because that's the first time I met Matt Mullenweg. I met Mark Ghosh of WeblawToolsCollection.com. I met Nathan Rice, Chris Jean, Corey Miller. Pretty much before they were iThemes, or shortly after that event, they formed iThemes. Yeah, and Mark Jakewith and Aaron Brazell.
Yep.
Yeah, we had dinner with Aaron Brazell and Mark Jakewith.
Yes, and it was at that Bennigan's, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Which no longer exists.
I was like, I don't know who these guys are, but they sound cool. So yeah.
But you were involved in WordPress and everything. But over the past couple of years, I've noticed that you're sort of, well, how can you're not as, let's see, I guess my everyday job is to be involved and to be in conversations and to be knee-deep in everything WordPress, but how did you end up on the other side of the ocean? I mean, you went over to Europe for some reason. What happened?
So, I've been definitely traveling the high seas back and forth between Miami and Luxembourg, amongst other countries and stuff. I have family in both of those cities, so it's been interesting just growing as a professional in my career as a software developer. Always trying to become better, and that kind of just led me from one job to another, to one kind of consulting gig to another, and here I am still. I'm currently teaching. I've been doing a lot more of that nowadays. At the local university here in Miami, and possibly some more private schools. So
that's awesome. That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Extending that those knowledge bombs you got to other people.
Well, I've got one eye now, so I've got to build my army.
Oh boy. And Mr. Brad Williams, you were on the show early. This is way back before Web Dev Studios, StrangeWorks.com. You did some web development for a company called or website, batteries.com. Is that sort of how you got involved in web development, or is that the inspiration that got you involved in the WordPress?
No, I learned web development in the Marine Corps, actually.
Ah, that's right.
They taught me. I got a job at batteries.com when I got out. Ended up leaving to start Web Dev Studios and ended up doing a ton of WordPress. And that's all I do now. So it's grown quite a bit.
And you and Brian Messlinger got involved with, you two founded Web Dev Studios and apparently haven't looked back since.
We have not. It's crazy. Back on the first episode, we were talking about blogging, and now I'm sitting in Seattle and spent all day working with Microsoft and WordPress. So it's come quite a ways since then.
I mean, back in the day, did you ever have these types of aspirations? I mean, the things you're doing now, are these things that you thought maybe one day you could be doing, or is this something you're going to be doing?
I think I had aspirations. I don't know if I believed I would be doing it. It takes, you kind of stumble your way through it and think that maybe someday, and there's companies I looked up to early on, wanting to be one of those companies, and just pushed very hard and worked very hard to get there. And now we're, I consider ourselves one of those companies, and I think we're doing really amazing stuff, and it's still pretty mind-blowing to see some of the stuff the team's, launching and releasing, and all 100% WordPress.
And the WordPress ecosystem, businesses, developers, agencies, it's still, I mean, would you agree that it's a very young part of WordPress's life in the ecosystem, even though you've been around for, 5, 6 years now?
Yeah, I would. I mean, the agency space, there's a lot of companies out there that do WordPress. There's not a lot of large companies that do WordPress. There's a handful of them. And really no very large companies. So it's still very, very early on. We're only a few years into this in kind of the agency world and enterprise space. So it's kind of fun to see where we're at and where we're going.
So when you stop to think about it, the last 7 years, with regards to WordPress, what are some of the big things you've changed or you've noticed, or maybe some things that are going on today that you maybe makes you yearn for the good old days, even though WordPress is 12 years old?
I guess, is you directing that to me? I'll answer, sure.
Yeah, to you.
It's grown up a lot. I think it was a much smaller crowd back then. You mentioned hanging out before, the iThemes and Studio Presses, so it is getting a little more corporate because there's a lot more people's livelihoods on the line, a lot more money on the line. But so some days it was nicer when it was smaller and a little more intimate. We could kind of goof off a little bit more. But in other ways, everybody grows up a little bit, and much larger companies are taking WordPress much more serious because of it. So I think it's just the growing of the community and the space and the platform. So it's been a fun journey. I wouldn't change it. But sometimes maybe a little bit smaller when we were all a little more naive. Those days I miss a little bit. 4 a.m. drunken night at McDonald's after WordCamp New York, that type of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Although that might still happen.
We can still do that.
Yeah, we might still do that a little bit.
Yeah, me sharing a room with the web dev crew, and we all go look out the window, and we see a surprise down at another building.
20 dudes sharing a hotel room. Like, that's we don't do that much anymore. I miss those days, man.
Well, you can miss those days all you want. Me, I don't know about that. but
I do actually need to run, but I did want to join and just say congratulations. I mean, the fact that this has gone 200 episodes, I mean, I'm shocked, but I don't know about anybody else. But it speaks to the testament of you, Jeff, and your passion, and I think it's been fun to be a part, even if a small part, but a part of the show. So definitely congratulations, and I'll be on episode 300.
Yeah, and before you go, Brad, I want to let you know that thanks for coming on and supporting me and helping me get this thing off the ground in episode 1, and throughout all these years I know you, I write about your business and everything else, but I mean, personally, in the personal life, you've been a good friend and have helped me out and given me some good advice. So thanks for everything you've done and for what you continue to do for the WordPress community, and the best of luck as you continue to grow Web Dev Studios.
Absolutely, you got it. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you, Brad.
Peace.
Bye-bye. And so, Pata, looking back at 7 years of evolution for WordPress, maybe in some parts because of the changes that have gone on, maybe small revolutions. You've sort of taken interest in front-end web design, back-end web design, coding, presentation. all kinds of different technologies involved here. What are some of the major shifts or changes you've noticed over the past 7 years for WordPress, and kind of where do you see it going?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting question. So like I told you, how I initially kind of got started in the web was by kind of investigating like the best CMS. But even beforehand, I had a little experience with building Flash websites, using ActionScript 2.0. So I was always curious about tinkering and like just using the best technology for the job. And but where I see WordPress, nowadays, like, it's definitely powering lots and lots of websites. But I think there's even a greater community out there that WordPress is based on, because at the end of the day, themes are based on, HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Those are the core languages. You could definitely dabble some PHP, but for the most part now, modern websites are kind of powered by JavaScript. So I think where WordPress is going is by looking at the greater web and looking at like where the greater communities and languages and frameworks are, kind of what they're developing, and how and figuring out how we can incorporate that into the WordPress ecosystem. For example, using React and pulling that in with React Native. I know Delicious Brains, they recently just posted a tutorial about how to build a mobile app using WordPress and WP API. So I think looking out to the greater community in the web, pulling some of those ideas in, and being a pirate.
So how important is it to you, or that you see it to WordPress, to merge in the REST API to the core of WordPress? It seems, we've talked about it here on the show. If you go to any WordCamp in this country or across the world, it's standing room only, if you're lucky, to any of the sessions that deal with the WordPress REST API. It seems like this is going to be the thing that rejuvenates developers, or is the thing that a lot of developers are waiting on to take advantage of. How key do you think this REST API being merged in the core is to WordPress's future?
I think there's definitely a lot of weight put on WP API, given its profound kind of like groundbreaking changes that can potentially impact the WordPress space. But I understand. I've been using it for many months now, probably a year or more. I don't understand what people are waiting for. You can already use it now. Now just as the plugin. So it definitely needs to have a smoother transition, given that merging it into core is a huge deal. So it takes time to do that. But as a developer, I don't see why you should be waiting. I've been using the WP API version 1.0 and even the newer versions now, just in my own plugins and creations. So I think you should start using it now. I don't think you should wait.
And so looking at that, let me ask you this, and I've even asked Matt this question. So what do you foresee as the thing that REST API is going to give WordPress users the most freedom in once they start to engage with it?
Freedom of data transportation, exportation, and importation. So being able to get your data in and out, being able to get that data across various systems, across various languages. It's really about WordPress as a system. It's very simple to set up and run. Users, they know how to manage the WP admin. They understand it's a very intuitive interface. And so once you set that up, the possibility for setting up a really system around WordPress, just using the simple primitives of the API and custom post types and so forth, I really think there's huge potential there, and it really all of it revolves around the data layer, like the fact that you can expose this rich set of data in a JSON format. I think that's key.
Well, okay, so give me just a basic scenario. Like, okay, we couldn't do it before the API was available. Now that it is, we can do this. Like, what's that thing that stands out for you?
Well, I mean, everyone is talking about the growth of WordPress and how it initially started as a blogging platform and how it then transitioned to, all right, it's a CMS, and and now the next thing is the application platform, rapid application development. But I think there's also a notion of using it just solely as an administrative interface for your content. And so, there's a terminology called a content management framework. So removing the system and just making it a framework. And if you look at Drupal with CCK, being able to create, custom content types and having those kind of as a native bundled inside the WordPress interface, I think that could be like its own evolution. So solely using WordPress as the administrative interface, using the friendly navigation and user experience, but having it support any type of data that you're needing to use. I mean, there's pods that's out there. There's already tools and plugins that are available. It's just not within used throughout the greater community.
Got it.
And Ronald, I'd extend the same question to you because you're in data and architecture and setting things up. The importance of the WordPress REST API in terms of WordPress itself and how it will, impact its future.
I could definitely, excuse me, see a lot of use cases where a person could spin up a WordPress site, get a good database structure going, because WordPress does have a very good database structure, and just use it kind of like as a software as a service type thing where other people can consume that content. One of the things I can think of, I haven't, had to dabble in personally with it, but one of the ideas I have was, setting up a song listing service, because I do karaoke on the side, and all the song listing services suck, and so getting something that you can just create a mobile app and just use WordPress, the database layer, and just pull in all that content in via an API, that would be, huge. Before we're stuck with RSS feeds and stuff like that, and you're very limited. But being able to custom query WordPress using any language and consuming JSON, I think it's amazing.
So with that said, are you one of those types that would love to see XML RPC just get the hell out of WordPress?
Yeah. Definitely. Like, okay, let's see some good native apps that use WordPress that would we don't even have to know it's WordPress. That would be awesome.
And so, what kind of, just for the listeners out there, what kind of back end stuff should they be learning to really take advantage of this full stride? Like, what languages?
Arnold, you want to go ahead and answer that one?
I'm not sure I understand the whole context of the question. Sorry.
If you get somebody new that doesn't know how to code or is just new to WordPress, and then they hear us talking, and maybe there's some more technical skills that are required to take advantage of this, what should they be learning?
I would say absolutely memorize every aspect of the database schema that WordPress uses,
really?
and what it's capable of doing. Like why data is stored where, what the relationships are, how to pull that data. If you learn all of that, then you're basically a WordPress master from the gate, I think.
I can give you just like a small example about the potential use case of WordPress, and there's so many, but just pulling from my personal experience, I definitely see WordPress as just a platform or tool to use for speed. Speed to be kind of used as a time to market. You can get very quickly your application, your website, your platform, if you understand WordPress and know how to utilize all of its APIs, WP, HTTP, and all the various internal classes that are available within WordPress. If you're able to grow that and the learning curve to understand that versus another system, so for example Java, or for example Drupal, or for example JavaScript and Node or Express, WordPress has a very low learning curve. So that means that someone who learns PHP and HTML and understands a little bit of CSS and JavaScript, they can really quickly build up an application or whatever their desire just based off of WordPress's primitives and just get to market quicker and faster than any other language and any other platform and any other framework that's available today. And that's the power of WordPress. I worked at a startup company last year called Live Ninja, and one of the initial prototypes for the application was, and still to this day, was built on WordPress, in a combination with WordPress and BuddyPress for the social networking feature. But just already with those features available, I was able to take those primitives of BuddyPress, of the social networking aspect, and get it tailored and massage it in a way where it worked for the application. It wasn't necessarily architected for speed and performance and scalability, but we were able to get this application up and running, and we were able to raise a round of funding of $500,000. And
Wow.
with the speed that, what was it, a few months of development that you couldn't do with another language. And that was just something that, with WordPress's capabilities, we were able to do. We had a small team of probably 2 developers, and one was a hybrid developer designer and another full-time designer. That was our dev team. That's all we had, and that's what we were able to do with WordPress.
Well, that
Wow,
round
so-
of funding explains that 24-karat gold surfboard.
Well, I'll tell you, that's very encouraging, because it seems like the guys that are already into WordPress, once they start to pick this up and take advantage of it, they can hit the ground running faster than any other platform out there, which means that they can make the cool apps and the cool connections and the EDIs of the world and all of that different stuff from an e-commerce standpoint a lot quicker. So the early adopters are going to benefit, I'm sure, from a revenue perspective.
Yeah, I mean, all the APIs in WordPress are just fantastic. I mean, all of them.
Wow.
So just, well, that's just my opinion, but, to have an API that exposes all those APIs, it's just great. I mean,
compared to, like, for example, and I've used and have professional experience with Symfony 2, also Zen Framework 2. I've used other greater, like, more like developer or engineer focused, PHP frameworks, which are more pure, and they have unit tests that are like very clean and so forth. Like, I've used other systems and frameworks to build applications, but a lot of communities are reinventing the wheel that WordPress it's already solved with its many hundreds of, many thousands of plugins that are freely available. You can just move much more. You can just move faster. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with an events calendar plugin. And even though you want to, you don't have to do that initially. You can buy yourself time by getting a platform up and running. Build it out as you meet various milestones throughout the project's lifecycle, and refactor it later on. But at least with WordPress and its ecosystem of plugins and sister projects, you can just move faster and build your idea and get it to life.
yeah, that's one of the things actually I wanted to mention about, you're mentioning the 7 years that we've dabbled on WordPress, and I think the plugin community has significantly matured since that time. You're seeing, plugins that are actually built by companies, and they're backed by agencies, and they're just very mature, very well thought of. I mean, WooCommerce, for example, would have probably been possible when we first started this podcast. Stuff like easy digital downloads, some of the membership plugins, etc. I mean, they're very, very mature products that took lots of years of development time, and they're just ready to be consumed, at a very minimal cost.
Man, that's awesome. So I've heard Matt Mullenweg say over the years that the job of WordPress is to allow you to easily publish your thoughts and words and things like that to the web. And when it excels, WordPress sort of gets out of the way. It's like you don't even know you're using WordPress. It seems like what I understand of what this REST API will enable developers to do is to create a interface or application or an experience that allows pretty much you won't even know you're using WordPress, even though it's built, even though it's like using WordPress's endpoints to manage data and things like that. Does that seem to be an accurate statement of what could be possible?
Yeah, a lot of requests we're getting are for front-end editors like really, really robust front-end editors, or somebody doesn't even realize they're using a CMS.
That's something I personally would love to see is, a post editor to WordPress that is on par with the features that it enables, like embed and some cool stuff like that. But maybe I don't have to load I don't have to go into the WordPress backend to use something that's more robust than just press this.
Well, I saw on the Make thread, and I guess we can't call it this anymore, the Lasso plugin. They're using the REST API, but they're not going to pursue it any further until it's officially set for merge and core. So it's just, I'll keep my eyes on it because it seems like a very, very promising project. But.
So I wanted to round it out here, talk about a couple things, loosen it up here a bit. But Todd, do you have any favorite moments or experiences in all these years? No, why are you laughing already? I didn't even finish my question, dude.
I'm sorry.
He doesn't have any.
He must not. That's I won't tell everybody how you and me stayed up till 3 a.m. one night watching South Park and laughing at Carl.
Whoa. By the way, this was on the internet. This was not in person in the same room. So.
Yeah. Well, okay, I can vouch for that.
But no, you were. I didn't let you finish the.
But is there any memorable moments, any memorable shows, anything that you look back on and say you were glad to be part of that? Don't say no.
Well, I definitely remember our time when we first got to know each other in person.
We're at Camp Dallas, right?
WordCamp Frisco. This was in 2009.
Well, what was WordCamp Dallas, but it was in Frisco.
Yeah. But yeah, WordCamp Dallas. But that's when we all met, and where were we going to eat at this this breakfast spot over in I think it was an IHOP or something. We had pancakes and stuff.
I remember that, and I wrote a couple cool things on paper. We took pictures, like
it was pretty fun.
Valley School girls and everything.
Basically we all came off from a plane. We met each other from just interacting off the internet. After me commenting on your blog on Jeffro 2.0, which was a super long domain, but I remember you typed it out. And it was just great to finally meet people that I actually conspire with on the internet in person. It was foundational to just my future involvement to stay embedded inside the WordPress ecosystem. It's just a bunch of great people in real life. Personally, they're really good people, and so that's what kept me involved, and that was definitely one of those highlights.
You say that, and I think back to, doing this show and getting involved with WordPress. At one point I thought I was just some dude who likes WordPress, blogging about it, in his bedroom. He lives with his parents still, in Ohio, where the closest thing they have to a tech conference is a LAN party, if you're lucky. And I find it incredible that thanks to WordPress and the WordCamps, the events, the people, the meetups, the living it affords people. In fact, one of my favorite sites of this year is HeroPress, because every Wednesday you get to hear and read about how WordPress has helped change their lives. And I think it's fascinating that a piece of software like this has that kind of influence and power to be able to do that for people. And I've met so many awesome people over the years thanks to WordPress. And really, from all walks of life, all creed, color, skin, race, you name it, we have one thing in common, and that's WordPress. And we've been able to bond and create lasting relationships because of our bond with WordPress. So, you say that, but man, you're right on the money there.
Yeah, no, I think that I've been a self-taught developer for now going on 9 years, and most of my work has been tied to open source and WordPress and various other online communities. But after reflecting on my development experience and career, problems in the world are not caused by technology, or technology doesn't really solve any problems. It's really about, at the end of the day, it's about people and the people that you actually connect with and the relationships that you build. and I have to say hands down, like the WordPress community, I have like you guys are my extended family. Like it's just been amazing how much fun I have at WordCamps and even at just hanging out when I just travel to your various cities and states just to kind of hang out outside of the WordCamp space and just get to know the actual people behind building these amazing companies and softwares or just open source projects.
I'm glad you consider me part of your extended family. I remember that next time I'm in Florida and I need a place to stay.
Oh, well.
Oh, sorry, you just kind of invited me. Sorry, I mean, what can I say? You can't take it back now.
I got a blow up bed for you.
He did that to me too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but Ronald, so I mean, last 7 years, do you have any favorite moments or favorite episodes or guests or interviews, anything over the past 7 years regarding WordPress Weekly or WordPress in general?
Yeah. Just want to bring up something like as far as extended family. Patal did help me out in Atlanta one time when I needed a place to stay. So completely out of the question about Florida. If you're nice to him, he is a crazy driver, but whatever. So I think my highlight was WordCamp Europe in the Netherlands, in Leiden. Hope I'm saying that right. It was just, being in Europe for 2.5 years doing WordPress, it just kind of opened my eyes as far as how big the WordPress community is and how far everybody is, coming from, whether, they're whatever country they're from, sex, whatever they are. Just so many people involved in the WordPress community, and they're all have one goal, which is just to make WordPress better and hopefully make a living with WordPress. And it's kind of broadened my horizon, so to speak, because I just feel like I'm a little more cultured, so to speak, for an American. But it's just seeing how everybody else is interacting with WordPress, see how many other languages are interacting with WordPress. How many people are struggling with the multi-language concept in WordPress and trying to fix it, stuff like that. It's just so great. So.
What's really cool is I told Marcus this story when I came back. Well, he was there, but I was at one of the after parties. But WordCamp San Francisco 2014, I was at one of these sponsored parties, and a group of people flew into WordCamp San Francisco from Tokyo, from Japan. They have the Japanese WordPress community is amazing. All the different wapus and stuff they have over there. And they found out who I was and who Sarah Gooding was, and they crowded around us and they go, "Are you Jeffro?" And I go, "Yes." "From WP Tavern?" I go, "Yes." They start cheering and going crazy, and it's like they all surround me and I'm taking selfies and pictures. I was I was shocked and amazed, but I thought it was awesome that WordPress Weekly and the Tavern itself has a very big following in the Japan, especially the Tokyo area. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Even like back with when Ronald mentioned WordCamp Europe when in Leiden, it was just mind blowing that I met I met again Ronald in Europe when I met him in Atlanta and various other places around the states, in Oklahoma and Dallas, and it's just like it was very weird like seeing him in Europe. Like it's just like how is everyone comes together like to these WordCamps and stuff, but just to these events. Like it's just amazing to see that. Like it's like unreal almost. Like
hello, Patal, you can't get rid of me that easily.
It's quite interesting. No, it's just like that. You can like across like land, across like geographies, like you can bring people together. So
yeah,
I think it's really cool.
Like at WordCamp Dallas in Frisco, we met a guy named Alex Friesen, a German.
Yeah.
And he was living in Dallas at the time, and we hung out with him for a little while. And
I remember him.
Yeah.
And then in WordCamp
Not
Europe, in WordCamp Europe, he heard me asking a question. I think it was maybe to Patal or somebody, and he found me out in the crowd. He's like, "Oh my God, you're Ronald!" And I'm like, "Hey, Patal's here too." He's like, "Really? Oh my!" So it was such like how small of a world is this, man? Jeez. So it's crazy.
That was definitely an experience, not a niche. His website and even just meeting him at his place when we went there.
Yeah, that was fun. No details, please.
Yeah, the details can be found online if you know where to look and what to search. Anyways,
Let's stop.
anyways, So Marcus, I've talked to my guests. They've been with me for 7 years, and they've grown, and they've grown by leaps and bounds in terms of their knowledge and what they're doing now for WordPress. But I wanted to ask you, Marcus, because you've been with me now for quite a while now. I mean, first, when did you get involved with the WordPress community, and B, what have you seen? What have you noticed? I mean, what's your favorite part of this whole thing we call the WordPress ecosystem?
Well, I started using WordPress in 2004, 5, or like right in the cusp there.
Wow, it's like that's B2 era right there.
Yeah, it is. It was actually, and I used it because I did a podcast. So I had a music podcast. I was one of the very first podcasters out there. My friend Julian Smith, who's now doing amazing stuff on his own, looked at my original website that I had for the podcast, which I had built in NetObjects Fusion, and said, you don't have to hand encode your RSS feeds anymore for the podcast if you only switch to WordPress. And that was very appealing to me because I was doing 3 shows a week, and that was just a real pain in the rear to re-encode the RSS feed manually. So that's what brought me to WordPress, and I was an avid window shopper of plugins every single day, just waiting for the day that special plugin I had been looking for would finally come out. It's like the day you get the Christmas catalog and you just browse through it and see all the new stuff. So that became my thing, was just window shopping every single day and looking at plugins and evaluating them and seeing if that could be something that I could use for myself. And as I progressed into doing more digital marketing work and affiliate work and setting up mini sites and things like that, and really my corporate work, then WordPress became so much more prominent. So that's my basic foundation in WordPress. I've probably set up maybe 300, 400 different sites in that time frame. But so I obviously, because I was already a podcaster, I avidly listened to whatever WordPress shows were out there. Even the TalkShoe days, I was still there, still listening. I didn't really interact. I just listened, and see what was going on. And so that's really where the whole thing comes. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I've said this enough times, but there was a time, Jeff, where I wanted to be on the show with you right when you quit, and I had to wait another year or two until you came back to where I could participate.
Oh man, well, I guess it's just fate, man.
Yeah, it was. It was a good time to come when you were on your break. That's when I discovered the other podcast that I'm on, WordPress Plugins A to Z, and so with that show, I mean, I've done twice as many episodes as I've done here. That really let me kind of hone my chops within the WordPress community, and then by the time I met you again the second time around, I was ready. So it was good timing on both of our counts.
So had a good run here, and we're going to keep going, for the foreseeable future, because I like to talk about WordPress. So as long as I like to talk about WordPress, I'm going to find a way to talk about it once a week, preferably.
I have a feeling you won't run out of topics, Jeff.
No. You know what? I have that same feeling. So before we wrap it up here, I'm going to let you guys, Patah and Ronald, go, because I know you guys are busy. But before I let you go, Patah, why don't you? Are you going to be at any WordCamp events soon, or what are you up to these days?
So what am I doing? So yeah, like I mentioned, I'm teaching. I'm based out of Miami now. Been here for about going on 2 years now for this session, and I've been teaching at Miami-Dade College, teaching their Intro to Computer Science. We actually the course was it was an intensive 4-week course, and I didn't get them started in WordPress, but that's the eventual goal. I got them with the foundational concepts of PHP, got them capable with these are students. These are students that are coming from college, people coming from different careers or switching over to coding, and they're just learning. They're just learning about what's possible in technology. So they have zero skills in terms of technical capability, and so it's a really challenging course that spans over over 4 weeks, and so we're going to be expanding that again for the next cohort, and we're going to be switching it over to JavaScript. So that's coming up August 31st. And yeah, just I'm doing more teaching related engagements, workshops, and so forth, and just staying in that educational space.
Will you be attending WordCamp Tampa in September?
Possibly, yeah. I'll be.
It's near the end of September.
Yeah. So I definitely keep my tabs on that. But I know that in August and later on in September, I will be going to Luxembourg for my sister's wedding, and then Costa Rica to visit a good friend of mine's, Mike Chacon.
Is his name Carl Hancock? I'm just kidding. I know he loves it down there in Costa Rica.
I have to go see him too. Yeah, that'll be great.
Ronald, how about yourself? What are you up to these days, and do you have any work camps in your future?
I'm trying to go to the next Dallas WordCamp, the Dallas Fort Worth WordCamp, September 12th, 2015. So that's probably my next public sighting.
Well, hopefully I see both of you at WordCamp US next year, wherever and whenever it's going to be.
It's going to be in Cleveland, man. I know that. We already know it.
Yeah, okay.
So
definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, I want to definitely try to go to the WordCamp Europe in Vienna. That would be so sweet if I can make it there.
Probably would be. So with that, hey, gentlemen, Ptah, Ronald, thank you to Brad Williams. Thank you again for being part of this special episode with me. I mean, it meant a lot just having you three on here. That helped propel the show to where it's at today. You helped me get my start. So thanks a lot for taking an hour or so time out of your day, giving it to me. I'm a big 200. And all the best of luck to you, and I can't wait to run into you in person again sometime soon, man.
I think that'll be fun, man. I really appreciate you having us on the 200 podcast. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
And Ptah, before you go, I wanna ask you, do you remember Shifter theme?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anybody that finds me or Ptah, just ask about Shifter, and you might be told the story. I'm not sure, but let me tell you.
I think Ptah might hit you in public.
That was the first.
There's still potential legal issues around that topic that I'd rather not delve into, so I'm just gonna quiet.
Awesome. All right, man. Ptah, take it easy, man. All the best to you, and Ronald, take it easy, man. I'll see you maybe Friday night. I don't know.
All right, take care, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
And let's see, that's it, man. That's our guest for the show. I don't have any stories to talk about for this week. Marcus, why don't you give us your plug and picks of the week?
You got it, Jeff. The first one out of the gate is called Flow Social Streams. And it lets you display all of your social hub activity, and I'm talking Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff, in a responsive kind of masonry layout grid on your page. Now, what's nice is you can use any combo of social feeds with Flow, and it shows the posts all together, and you can have up to 5 Facebook pages, 5 Twitter accounts, and 5 Instagram accounts in one stream, which is very cool because you can kind of group people together. It's got caching, which allows it to not have to rely on checking 5 Facebook callouts and 5 Twitter callouts and 5 Instagram callouts all at the same time, and images externally and all that stuff, which is really nice. It's really easy to use, very easy to set up. So it's called Test Payment Module.
Okay, sorry that you disappeared there for a little while, but now you're back.
Okay, it's called Test Payment Module for WooCommerce. This next plugin, it gives you the option to test payments out within your WooCommerce setup without having to do any external hookups. So you're not giving a to test out the payment gateway. So it's just kind of a null thing that only works when you're logged in as the administrator and you're going back through the site again from the front end from a commerce perspective. So it's a great development plugin. It's called Test Payment Module for WooCommerce. And finally, Jeff, I've got one called Dropbox Backup. It's by a company called Subsystic, and it allows you to back up your WordPress installation through Dropbox or through FTP. You can do a full restoration through Dropbox as well, which is pretty nice because that means you can keep a bunch of different copies, and then maybe you got a stage site or something like that. You can pull that right from Dropbox and populate the entire thing. Really cool way to go. It does all of the different things as far as the variables, plugins, posts, the data. We all use that, so it's a pretty good way to go. It's a free plugin. It's called Dropbox Backup. And Jeff, those are my plugin picks of the week.
Awesome. So to close out the show, I don't really have anything special to say except, Marcus, I hope these are not the golden years of WordPress Weekly. They've been very good. Well, I shouldn't say golden years, but, golden times, golden episodes. I'm not sure. These last 64 or 66 episodes with you have been, in my opinion, some of the best. It makes a big difference when you have a co-host that is knows what they're doing, is engaged with the show, and just is a professional about it. And it's made, to me, all the difference. And when I talk to people at WordCamps who come up to me, in fact, WordCamp Columbus, and they say, I love what you guys are doing with the show. I love hearing Marcus's plugin picks of the week because he always comes up with something new that I didn't know was out there. It makes all the difference. So Marcus, I want to say thank you for, spending at least an hour every Wednesday night or every Wednesday of your time with me to do this show. You do it on a volunteer basis. You are not paid to do this, just so everybody is known. And I realize that there may come a time in the future where some priorities may present themselves in your life to where maybe it doesn't make sense to do this show anymore. That'll suck, but I totally understand. So that's why I say, so this way I hope, I hope the golden years are yet to come. But if sometime in the future I am told that these episodes you've been on as co-hosts with me are considered the golden years, I will understand. With that, go ahead.
Let me respond to that. You're quite welcome. It's my pleasure to be part of the community and part of this show as far as WordPress goes. I've been very happy to be part of 66 shows at least out of the 200 and climbing. So there's a lot more to come. I hope that people have loved what Jeff and I have done, some of the departures in the typical WordPress community as far as a guest goes. We've tried to bring some people that were sort of on the fringe. And I think we can just use number 200 here as just another milestone on the road for WordPress Weekly. I think there's a lot more to come. And I think, the most exciting times as far as this show and some of the guests that we have to come on are yet to come. So stay tuned and make sure that, especially on this occasion of 200, that you go to iTunes and give us a review and let us know what the 200 shows have meant to you, or at least how many that you've particularly listened to. We'd greatly appreciate that, and maybe we can kick some of those other podcasts out of there, right?
Right. And, for all the listeners out there who have made it this far, sincere thank you from me to you for listening to this episode, for all the previous episodes. I have no idea how long you've listened to the show, but I know there's some people out there who have listened for 30, 40, 50. There might even be a couple people out there who have listened to me since the beginning. I would love to hear from you if you have. That would be really cool. I definitely read your email on the next episode of WordPress Weekly. But, I do this show. I started this show. And by the way, it would be a good time for me to do a shout out to Charles Strickland, who I consider the godfather of WordPress podcasting, because it was his show I listened to back in the day to get information on WordPress. And to the point where I couldn't get enough of information, so I decided to do a show of my own to fill the void. And here I am 200 episodes later, still doing it. I love talking about WordPress. I'm going to keep doing it until something happens to me or I can't do it anymore. Well, hopefully both of those options don't happen. I just keep going on and on and on until, until whenever. But thanks a lot for everyone who's listened to the show, who supports me, supports the show. Couldn't be here without you. And definitely send us an email. Send me an email, jeffc@wtptavern.com, if you have a favorite highlight, a favorite episode, a favorite guest, anything to do with the last 200 episodes or even the last 100 episodes you've listened to. I'd definitely love to hear from you. And also publish your review on iTunes. That would be awesome.
Yeah, but don't tell us we do awesome bar tricks.
Yes. Yeah, it's wrong show. So with that, you can find show notes for this episode and every other episode on WPTavern.com. And you can follow me at Twitter at Jeffro, that's JEFFR0, and Marcus.
You can find me at my website, marcuscouch.com, and also on Twitter at marcuscouch.
So next week, next Wednesday, we're going to do the show a bit earlier to account for our guest over on the opposite side of the Atlantic. And we're going to have Paul Gibbs on, Buddy Press extraordinaire. He's also helping to organize Buddy Camp Brighton, UK. And we're also going to have one of my favorite guests, Triple J, on. Ooh. And we're going to find out how much money he has left in his wallet and a whole lot more. So stay tuned until the next edition of WordPress Weekly, which should be next Wednesday night. So everybody enjoy the rest of your week. We're past hump day now. Have a safe, enjoyable weekend, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday afternoon. Until then, take care, everybody. And thanks, episode 200.